evening, Papua New Guinea, and welcome to a brand new episode of Business PNG. Considerable improvements in PNG's technological architecture have been made in recent years. Deregulation has driven considerable improvements in competition, and the rollout in 2008 of Digicel's network has brought internet services to millions of previously unconnected Papua New Guinean citizens. However, PNG's internet infrastructure appears to be reaching its limits, and service outages are commonplace throughout the country. And although penetration has improved considerably in recent years, it remains amongst the lowest in the world. In 2013, the International Telecommunications Union ranked Papua New Guinea's internet affordability at 163 out of 169 countries, with an entry-level fixed broadband package estimated to cost 266% of gross national income per capita. Since that time, internet prices have fallen significantly. In 2014, NICTA estimated that the price of a 1 gigabyte package ranged from around 20 to 80% of GNI per capita, while current estimates suggest a 1 gigabyte package can be obtained for around 10% of GNI per capita. These dramatic price reductions are likely to be driven by a number of factors, including reductions in the wholesale price and increased competition in the retail market. However, according to a report released last October by the National Research Institute, entry-level internet packages still appear to be substantially above the ITU's benchmark required to accelerate internet penetration. Also, the cost of reliable internet services to businesses remains substantial. Moderate to high data usage packages cost many thousands of Kina, and the requirement for businesses to adopt redundancy solutions to manage intermittency adds substantially to costs. Lack of reliability also results in numerous indirect costs to retail and business customers.
One of the strategic direction of the NRI, PNG NRI, is basically to promote the private sector. We have a very strong passion and commitment to help promote the development of the private sector in this country, because that's where jobs will be created, that's where income sources will be created for Papua New Guineans. No charity, but empowering Papua New Guineans to get jobs, and that the governments can't create jobs. Government job is to facilitate the creation of job opportunities, and it's a private sector that will. So here we're finding the internet a major input into business creation, and we are starting to realize that it's increasingly becoming one of the problems of PNG businesses, which is the high cost of doing business. So through this study, we wanted to take that issue head on and say, listen, we can do better than this. Let's look at a way to lower the internet rate. And so anyways, that was the whole idea, and we commissioned the study.
According to the NRI paper, the reasons behind high internet prices are multiple. The study identified a range of reasons spanning 5 broad categories: infrastructure, wholesale, regulation, retail and competition, and PNG-specific issues.
As the study proceeded on, the findings as to why the reasons are, broadly speaking, it came up with the multiple factors. So it's spanning from the infrastructure to wholesale to regulation, retail, and retail competition, and finally the PNG specific issues. So basically, these are the 5 broad categories that the report highlighted as being the key drivers behind the high price of internet.
Also with the connection between cities in Port Moresby in PNG generally. So it's not so easy to connect, for example, Ley and Port Moresby through those cables. So the cost of carrying the data across regions and across towns is very expensive. So that drives the prices high. The wholesale depends on now, because we basically have one major player, Telecom, providing the wholesale in the wholesale market. So it's more like they're charging a price that they want to charge. There's no competition in that. So at the moment, because there's lack of competition, that price is a little bit too high. And then regulations are there to try and limit excessive charges, but it doesn't seem that they are that effective. The industry players are still able to charge prices as they wish, even though there are guidelines of how to charge the prices, but they seem to be going overboard.
Maintenance and capital costs for internet infrastructure in PNG are considerably higher than in other countries, although by how much is unclear. One estimate is around 4 to 5 times higher. This includes both maintenance costs incurred by Telecom for the undersea cables and costs of maintaining the infrastructure required to transport internet signals between population centers. Telecom PNG was approached by Business PNG for an interview on this, but weren't available to comment. A lack of reliability and the need for internet traffic to be offshored further adds to the cost of providing internet services, adding more upward pressure on end-user prices. Deregulation of the ICT sector in the last decade has driven significant improvements in market entry and diversification of services. However, the regulatory environment has not kept up with the pace of market and technological change in recent years.
And particularly we're looking at the regulatory reform areas. And in this area, I think there seem to be two regulators dealing with almost the same thing. We deal with competition aspect of it, and NICTA deals with the other aspect of it, technical and other market issues. So we take this, the findings positive, and we go back and sit down, and then depending on what the NRI as the lead agency in this report, and come up with the reform, then we should be able to assist in trying to get a regulatory arrangement that is workable for the industry.
While the provision of wholesale internet services is declared under the NICTA Act and hence notionally subject to non-discrimination and efficient pricing requirements, a number of regulatory gaps have been identified, which, according to NRI, are likely to contribute to higher end-user internet prices.
The report did acknowledge that this issue is a complex one, and so as the factors that perceived to be the ones driving behind them. I mean, they're really complex. You look at, for example, the wholesale market. It's just so big, and and also the retail and competition aspect, also the infrastructure, and then it also highlighted the PNG specific issues as well. I mean, like the land issues, the labor, and the geography. That all these adds into the cost of doing the business and operating in the sector.
Over the past decade, the retail internet environment has grown substantially, particularly due to and following the entry of Digicel to the market in 2008. Digicel appears to enjoy a considerable degree of market power in the retail ISP market, with fringe providers seemingly unable to make inroads. The degree of government involvement in retail is considerable, with 3 government-owned retail service providers competing with the private sector and each other. There is very limited transparency of retail prices. The NRI report identified potential policy responses through a 2-step process. First, high-level end goals or strategic objectives were identified to help guide the development and implementation of reforms. These objectives include reducing the wholesale access rate, plugging the identified regulatory gaps, and reforming the retail market.
As a way forward, the study recommend a ICT industry development strategy, basically a more holistic sort of approach that again looks at each of those issues which we identify as the key ones. Like I said, there are 5 of them which we identified in the reports. So as a way forward, build on earlier in 2008 there was a LA policy, ICT policy. It was the government pushed for it. I don't know where it is at this stage, but I think times has changed, and as a way forward, look at those issues that were covered. That's one of the points that came out as part of the recommendation, and in particularly looking at looking at the wholesale market. What are the dynamics in the wholesale market, and the development that are happening. So look at it and the way things are happening. And in the regulatory aspect, reinforce the arrangement that encourage competition in the sector, and more importantly, keep an eye on the business operators as per their licenses in the sector, so as they provide what what is required and that. Yeah, basically these are the three strategies that came out there.
Timely implementation of the recommendations presents the best chance of meaningful reform in this area. Given the diversity of issues and stakeholders involved, it will be important for all players in the industry, be they public or private, retail or wholesale, to come together and work collaboratively to move the industry forward. Now on to some stories making headlines this past week. Strong links to markets are essential to generating economic growth for the country's small to medium enterprises. Improving these links creates a healthy cycle by boosting productivity, creating jobs and increasing income. These links are often non-existent, however, and many SMEs are left to their own devices. When dealing with two of the country's sustainable sectors, manufacturing and agriculture, access to domestic and international markets is vital for the survival of any business. Small producers in the rural communities lack the know-how and the established networks to connecting with international markets. The same dilemma is often faced by SMEs in the urban centers. Ernestine Maxton Graham is an entrepreneur and SME owner. Her business, Maxton House, produces and distributes organic coconut products made in Papua New Guinea using pure local coconut oil. However, she has expressed concerns about the lack of support given to her and other business owners when opening up to new domestic and international markets.
You know, I can't find that information readily for me as you would if you were down south. I can't walk into a government body and have a database that I can look up, or even on the internet. How do I go forward with that? Well, this is where we need, export is very big here in this country, trade is big. You know, it can only help an economy. So we need help in that area. Definitely the government has to come up and meet us with that, so that SMEs, not just in my sector, but throughout all of Papua New Guinea, has that available for them.
What Ernestine and other entrepreneurs like her need are avenues to facilitate trade, to set out what is needed by law to enter international markets, and assistance to producing these documents.
This is an all too common plight faced by small to medium enterprises in the country. Access to market will mean a healthy contribution to the economy, more business for the company, as well as international exposure for the country.
The state's three telecommunication companies, Telecom, B-Mobile and Dataco, will be amalgamated under a new name, Kumul Telecom. The announcement was made last week by Minister for National Planning and Acting Minister for Public Enterprise and State Investment, Charles Abel. Minister Abel said the NEC decision was based on the simple logic that the amalgamation allows cost-effective sharing of resources and market intelligence.
The Kumul Telecom amalgamation was approved by the National Executive Council yesterday, February 21st. The amalgamation means that Telecom PNG remains a 100% subsidiary of Kumul Consolidated Holdings. It is renamed Kumul Telecom Holdings Limited. B-Mobile and Dataco will become subsidiaries of Kumul Telecom, effectively merging the companies.
So what is happening is that under the existing telecom, that existing telecom is being renamed to Kumul Telecom, and the other two companies become subsidiaries under there. In other words, their shares are transferred there. The management, the staffing structure, the licenses and the assets remain there. You will know that EMTV and Daytech are also owned by Telecom. And the idea is to try and create a vertically integrated company that creates content and then that has the backbone and the infrastructure to drive that content through into mobile towers right down to the end user.
Mr. Abel said the decision to amalgamate the three companies ensures that Kumul Telecom keeps up with the changing times and operates as an integrated retail and wholesale operator.
We've got to respond to changing times. We can't have government entities competing against each other. We can't have Telecom competing against B-Mobile. It just does not make sense. We need a single, strong and successful government entity that is structured in an internationally modern way, under a unified board and unified management. So it is coordinated, and it will be for the benefit of the people of Papua New Guinea. It will be for the benefit of the staff of these entities to have it structured in such a manner.
The three telcos will share basic infrastructure such as towers throughout the country. Minister Abel said the amalgamation will improve, expand and increase access to an affordable ICT network.
It's all in line with the consolidation agenda. Government trying to structure its companies such that they are successful, they provide services and they provide competition in the marketplace.
The position of managing director is currently vacant, but a transition management team led by current CEO of Telecom PNG, Michael Donnelly, will oversee and ensure the successful amalgamation of the three entities.
The plan to turn East New Britain province into a tourism hub is not timely. Now, this is according to Michael Turkia, a local business consultant who says many things are not being showcased by the province to prove its worth as a tourism destination. Mr. Turkia says tourism sites like the Bitapaka War Cemetery doesn't have a toilet facility and most of the tour guides are illiterate. He said these are some deficiencies that will hinder progress of the tourism industry in the province.
This is a group of about 30 participants who are attending a tourism workshop in Kokopo. Today they were taken out to see and evaluate some of East New Britain's renowned tourism locations and how they can be developed. Places like this white sandy beach at the back of Tokua Airport still remained largely untapped for many years. While East New Britain province is growing in popularity as the tourism province, Michael Turkia, a local business consultant, says the province still needs to achieve more. Locations like the Bitapaka Memorial War Cemetery, although popular, it doesn't have a toilet facility for tourists to use, and also most tour guides are illiterate and need to enhance their communication skills to attend to foreign tourists when they come.
Having seen the actual cemetery, the participants now do realize that certain things are still missing.
Master Turkia is facilitating a week-long tourism workshop that focuses mainly on repackaging tourism products and also assists the participants to identify loopholes in the provincial tourism plan and suggest solutions to solve it. But most importantly is to educate the participants to start up their own small tourism businesses and contribute meaningfully to the province.
We need to really package it. And not packaging it to become another Cairns or another New York. No, we have to package it with the way we live, the way we engulf culture. Culture should be very much part of this planning.
It is understood about 20 million Kina was released by the national government in 2015 to fund the upgrading of tourism development projects in the province, but its usage hasn't yet been made public.
Acting State Enterprise Minister Charles Abel says the late Tidal Basin must be utilized to create revenue for the country. Abel says the government's intention is to have an international operator chosen by the PNG ports and Kumul Consolidated Holdings to do so. He says the government will raise relevant questions to why there are delays.
Yesterday, at the announcement of the new Kumul Telecom, the planning minister acting on the State Enterprise Ministry said PNG Ports and Kumul Consolidated Holdings would have to find an international operator, and fast.
Yeah, that's probably a question best answered by PNG Ports and KCH. But again, I state the government's intention is to have a good international operator come in and utilize that port and generate internationally competitive container movement rates and cartage rates and clearance through that port.
When the late Tidal Basin was opened in 2014 by the Prime Minister, Peter O'Neill, all was set for the 700 million Kina investment to make money for the country.
This is also another demonstration of our ability as a country and as a government, as a community and as people to deliver world-class infrastructure in our country.
Part of that cost of building the infrastructure was a loan from the Asian Development Bank. But since the opening, the late Tidal Basin isn't in operation and may not be making money.
It is certainly an issue that is outstanding. and we'll raise the relevant questions through PNG Ports and KCH as to what is happening in that recruitment process for that international operator, so that that asset can be fully utilized as was intended.
The Lake Tidal Basin is the biggest port in the South Pacific. This was going to transform Papua New Guinea's economy as Lake becomes a shipping gateway in the Southeast Asia region. But that still needs to happen 2 years on.
Despite the government applauding the sale of 36.5% in shares from Interoil to ExxonMobil, a Gulf landowner is calling for help to stop the sale. Chairman of Gulf Antelope Bluff Landowner Association, Tom Totor, says numerous attempts for the government to consider equal bidding by resource owners failed after Interoil and the government declined the request. The shares include assets in the Elk Antelope project areas, Bobcat, Raptor, Wahoo, and Wildcat, all in Gulf Province.
Not much noise has been made by Gulf people regarding the sale of 36.5% shares in the Papua Gulf PNG LNG project. Yesterday, an outspoken chairman of Gulf Elk Antelope Bluff Landowner Association, Tom Tautara, said landowners were not given a chance in the bidding process.
It is also abuse to the constitution of Papua New Guinea that a foreign company have come and caused and manipulate to take over the one-man company without no other competition.
In a statement released yesterday, Petroleum and Energy Minister Nixon Duban said although there are issues with competition, the government is comfortable with its participation of 22.5 equity share under the Oil and Gas Act. However, the landowners feel that the chance of participation is being neglected by the state and developer.
We cannot be mere spectators on our own land by sitting down looking at it and let the foreigners come and manipulate the system and override the rights of the people who have the heritage of the land and everything.
Chairman Tautara says Gulf people must not be silent over this matter. He called for help and believes there is a way out for better decision on the selling of the shares. The 36.5% says equates about 7.9 billion Kina.
And that's all from us tonight. For more business news, if you'd like to view this episode again, visit EMTV online at the URL at the bottom of the screen. Or for up-to-the-minute business news and updates, like our page on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at the Twitter handle at Business PNG. Until next week, have a pleasant evening. I'm Leon Gerari, and this was Business PNG.